She saved 180 passengers, until her call sign made the F-22 pilots stand at attention. The night was restless over the North Atlantic. Waves churned against the belly of the Boeing 787, its long fuselage slicing through the sky at 35,000 feet. The cabin lights had dimmed, casting the rows of passengers into a sleepy stillness. Mothers cradled their children, business travelers leaned into their seats with half-open laptops, and couples whispered in the dark, waiting for the sunrise that would meet them somewhere over Europe. At the front of the plane, Captain Elena Ramirez sat in the left-hand seat, her eyes steady, her hands calm on the yoke. To the passengers, she was just the captain, another pilot whose voice had greeted them over the intercom, promising a smooth flight to London. But Elena carried a past written in fire, metal, and sacrifice. Few knew her by her real name. Fewer still had heard the call sign that once made the skies tremble, Valkyrie. The first tremor came just past midnight. A low, muffled thunk reverberated through the cabin. At first, no one stirred. Turbulence, they thought, routine. But inside the cockpit, warning lights flashed red like a heartbeat gone wild. An engine had failed. Elena's co-pilot, a young man fresh out of training, inhaled sharply. "Number 2's gone." Elena's voice was calm, but her chest tightened. "All right, we're on one. We can handle this." They initiated procedures, running through checklists like a duet rehearsed 1,000 times. But 20 minutes later, the second shock came, a rupture in the fuel line. Sensors screamed. Fuel gushed out into the blackness of night, vanishing like blood from a wound. They had 3 hours to London. The numbers told a merciless truth. They wouldn't make it. Back in the cabin, passengers felt the plane dip, then rise again. Murmurs spread. A baby cried. The flight attendants moved like dancers trained to disguise their fear. But some passengers saw it in their eyes. Something wasn't right. Elena keyed the radio. "Mayday! Mayday! Mayday! This is Flight 228. We've lost an engine, suffering rapid fuel loss. Request immediate diversion." The Atlantic silence answered. Then a crackle, faint and distant. "Copy, 228. Divert to Lajes Field, Azores. Nearest available strip." Her co-pilot looked at her. "We're too heavy," she knew. With 180 souls aboard, the landing would be brutal. But she gave no sign of doubt. "Then we make it work." Minutes dragged into hours of decisions carved from instinct and memory. She throttled. She trimmed. She fought the airplane as if it were a beast refusing the leash. Through every moment, her voice on the intercom remained calm, steady, a mother speaking to her children. "We've had a small technical issue, folks. Nothing we can't handle. Please remain seated with your belts fastened." But inside, she whispered a prayer only she could hear. The Azores appeared on radar like a lifeline, a green speck in an ocean of endless dark. But storms had risen around the islands. Rain lashed sideways, crosswinds howling at 30 knots. For a moment, her co-pilot hesitated. "We can't land in this." Elena's eyes hardened. She had landed in worse. The passengers never knew how close they came. They only felt the wheels slam onto the runway with bone-shaking force, felt the wings shudder, the brakes scream, and then silence. Silence broken by applause, sobs, and the sound of life returning to people who believed they might never feel it again. 180 passengers lived because of her hands. But the story wasn't over. As the passengers disembarked into the rain-soaked tarmac, Elena remained in the cockpit, completing her reports, eyes distant. She hadn't heard that name in years. But tonight, when she called, "Mayday," when her voice echoed across frequencies monitored by military command, someone had recognized it. A new voice came through her headset, deeper, formal. "Flight 228, confirm captain's name." Elena hesitated. "Ramirez. Captain Elena Ramirez." A pause. Then, "Copy. Stand by." Moments later, from the edge of the storm, 2 shadows streaked across the clouds. The passengers gasped as twin F-22 Raptors descended like hawks, banking low, their afterburners glowing against the night. They circled once, then held position, a guard of honor no civilian airliner had ever seen. Inside her headset, a voice whispered with reverence, "Valkyrie, ma'am, is that you?" Her co-pilot's head snapped around. Passengers pressed against windows, murmurs rising. Elena closed her eyes. The past had found her. Years before, she had not been Captain Ramirez of a commercial airline. She had been Major Elena Valkyrie Ramirez, United States Air Force, decorated combat pilot. She had flown through skies torn by fire, leading missions where survival was measured in seconds. Her legend was whispered in briefing rooms, how she had once taken her jet against impossible odds, saving not just her wingmen but hundreds of soldiers on the ground. How she had returned, her aircraft shredded, her body broken, but her will unbroken. But war extracts its toll. She had left the uniform behind, burying the call sign with it. To the world, she was simply Captain now. And yet here, above a civilian runway, two of the Air Force's most advanced fighters held their wings in formation, refusing to land until she had disembarked. They were not guarding the passengers. They were saluting her. The ground crews watched, bewildered, as the Raptors roared overhead one final time, then peeled off into the storm, their silhouettes vanishing like ghosts. Inside the terminal, passengers gathered around Elena, hugging her, thanking her, some weeping openly. A little girl clutched a teddy bear to her chest and whispered, "You're my hero." Elena smiled softly. "No, sweetheart, your mom's your hero. I just did my job." But as she walked away, her steps heavy, she knew what had happened tonight. For the first time in years, the name Valkyrie had been spoken not in the violence of war, but in the salvation of life. And those who knew what it meant, stood at attention. This story isn't just about a captain who saved 180 passengers. It's about a woman who carried the weight of skies she once defended, who traded the roar of a fighter jet for the quiet duty of guiding families home, and who proved, even years later, that courage is not a chapter you leave behind, it is who you are. So, if this story touched you, if it made you hold your breath, if it reminded you of the silent heroes walking among us, heroes whose pasts we may never know, then I ask you to share it. Because stories like this deserve to be remembered. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because somewhere out there tonight, high above the clouds, another Valkyrie may be flying, and one day, she might be the reason you make it home.